Thank you. All right, everybody needs to maybe stand up for a second. Let's just shake it up. Let's go. Come on. Yeah, I love the laughing yoga yesterday. I'm not going to ask you to do that. Just like stretch it out, open up your lungs, right? Get some fresh air in there. Excellent, excellent. I do this with my team back home. So, all right, excellent. Now you can sit back down. Everybody's awake. Excellent. My name is Christine Coe. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for ABC Fitness Solutions, and super excited to be here to talk to you about more data, as if you haven't heard about data, right, this past 48 hours. But we're going to take a slightly different spin. I got my esteemed panel here. I'm going to let them do their own introduction. But what we're going to do today is talk to you and share with you about insights around Gen Z specifically. Why they're important? Because, well, they spend a lot of money and they care about their fitness and well-being. So talk about wanting to recruit new members for your club and your facilities. This is the right group to go after. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to my panel. We'll start with Latasha, do a quick introduction and a most fun fact about yourself.
Thank you so much, Lester. Latasha Renee Garcia. I am CEO of P2P Transformation Center, and she does. P2P Transformation Center, we specialize in large group training. I got started in the industry 32 years ago. I started at 19 years old working for Gold's Gym, migrated to Gold's Gym International and traveled around and opened up their gyms. Got to live in some fun places like opening the gym in Cairo, Egypt, which is pretty amazing. And so I just had a love for the industry and making an impact and a difference. And I wanted to deepen that, and I created my own brands to do so. So it's been a fun journey. Fun fact, our karaoke last night, fun.
Legendary.
I think I was good.
Legendary, yes. All right, Lester.
My name is Lester Parada, SVP of Professional Services and Support at ABC. I've been in the fitness industry now for about 4 years. Before that, I spent a decade in healthcare technology. So the topic of this entire Fit Summit is near and dear to my heart, which is the intersection of fitness and wellness. So,
Great. Go ahead, Lee. Last but not least.
My name is Lee Robinson. Director of North American Sales for ABC. I've been in fitness now for 2 decades as an operator and then also on the vendor side. Fun fact about me, I couldn't finish the mile freshman football. That's actually what started my fitness journey, and then I actually wanted to make sure that no one else felt like that.
Yeah. Talk about changing lives, huh? All right. So let's jump right in. So I mentioned earlier, we're going to share a lot of fun facts about Gen Zs and ultimately making it practical for you about how to attract them and most of all, how to retain them and engage with them. So 3 parts. We'll talk about a little bit about Gen Z, who they are, what they do, their general behavior. Then we're going to get into a little bit more about their motivation, like what drives them, what keeps them coming back. And then ultimately, we'll talk a little bit more about tactics and programs and strategy to really attract and retain them. All right? So keep your notepads ready, questions ready. We'll take them at the end. All right, let's jump in. So Gen Z, why are they important? Let's start just kind of base level set here, who they are, what they do, and I'll pass it over to the panel. So Gen Zs in general, they were born 1997 to 2012. That means their ages of 11 to 26 right now. All right, and just so you know, I'm a geriatric millennial. For those of you who are keeping track, I'm a geriatric man. And what's great about the Gen Zs is that they're a digital native generation, meaning they were born with these things in hand when they came out of the womb. All right? And so when we think about just internal, just general personas about fitness consumers, let me set the stage right now. So in general, there are 3 types of personas that we see today in fitness industry. All right? One of them is, that's not on the page, is actually just the routine lifers. These are the folks generally about 55 and older. They've been coming to the gym their entire lives, and they'll continue to do so, and they spend about $25 per month. The other 3 that are really interesting are what we call wellness lovers. Right? So beyond the demographic, age, and gender, these are the 3 types. So wellness lover are folks who are all things wellness, right? Self-care, well-being, breath work, working out. Anything that's wellness connected, they love it. They'll spend lots of money on it. All right? And 25% of them prefer to work out in a big box gym. The other one is a casual consumer. So these are the folks who are more goal-oriented, meaning they're working out for maybe a wedding coming up, vacation, whatnot, and they're very goal-oriented, right? And so again, 10% of them prefers to work out in the gym, and 27% of them spends more than $25 a month on wellness and well-being and fitness in general. Last but not least is the Fitness Explorer. 16% of them prefer to work out in the gym, and they are also, again, very likely to spend way more money on fitness and well-being. About 65% of them spend more than $25 a month. All right, so with that, let's jump right in. So I'm going to start with Lester. Gen Zs in general are very inclusive, diverse. Like, tell us a little bit more about that and what have you observed?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So in Gen Z, the way to think about it is they are the generation of more. So starting with kind of diversity, they're represented at twice the normal rate in the Hispanic community and African American community, but also in every other ethnicity grouping, with the exception of white Caucasian. That number has actually gone down for Gen Z. But in addition to the fact that they're ethnically diverse, they're also, as Christine mentioned, they're digital, first folks. One way to put this into context is 30% of those people that you know as influencers are Gen Z. 60-something% of the people using Instagram, TikTok are Gen Z. They are more active on social issues, political activism, environmental issues. On the other side of the equation, they grapple more with mental health. So they see more therapists than any other cohort generation-wise. And when asked in a survey, about 61% of them said that they feel anxious or on edge in the past 2 weeks. So more, but more of everything, the positive and the negative. And what does that mean, to your locations, to your gyms, to your businesses? It's really, we have to get to know them better. Because they're so diverse, there's no silver bullet that's going to address all of them. We kind of have to dig deep and sub-segment this group and better understand them. And we're going to do some of that today.
Yeah. Any other comments, panel?
No.
All right, not yet. All right, we got more to dig into. All right, let's jump into that next data set here. I mentioned the personas earlier. So the Gen Zs are very much about the fitness explorer and wellness lover, and there's nobody knows that better than the Latasha. So actually, Latasha and Lee talking about from your previous life in Les Mills. So perhaps I think I'm going to Lee on this one first. Yeah, so let's jump in on like the programming, the experience, and all things connection here.
Yeah, I think we have to take a step back and understand what's the size of the prize here. Generation Z is the largest generation ever to come out, so they're just tremendously big. Then we also have to take a step back and say, okay, well, how did they get here where they understand mental health, right? They're like feeling stressed and understand how to diagnose that. So with my generation was a generation where you were in PE class and you just started health ed. Generation Z actually, because of Title 12, they had more people in health class, mental health class, and then physical activity, and they learned how to do those strength training. So when you see Generation Z at a squat rack and it's a female learning how to squat, she's actually done that her entire life doing sports. So that's something that we don't often think about, and that's really the catalyst that's been driving them to exercise and health. So with the baby boomers, a lot of times we had to sell them on fitness and the value of health and nutrition. With Generation Z, they already understand it. So what they're actually looking for is a continuation of that programming that they've had through their entire life. And what they need is really that structure. So they want to be able to understand what they should do, when they should do it, because they are in a transitional pace in their life. So either they're leaving high school, they're coming through college, or they're finding their first job. They're looking for that structure again. But not only that, they're also looking for that group aspect too. So if we can be able to adopt some of those things that they've been given for the majority of their life, then we'll actually have them be more innate with our facilities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So not only are they digital native, but they're also probably fitness native, right? They grew up with it, they're familiar with it. And ultimately, lots of value behind that as well. Like you've heard something else as well. Like they truly value all things fitness and well-being.
Yeah, generation baby boomers, they understood what health was, and generation millennials also, but they weren't going to actually make the behavior changes to get the best out of it. So they knew they had to diet, they knew they had to eat healthy, they were tracking those things. Generation Z is actually adopting that digital portion in terms of trackables, wearables, what they're consuming, along with the fitness values. So that's the really comparing that, putting that together. And so it's actually something that's really, really cool to see. It really goes to all the hard work that everyone here had done in the room as an operator over the course of the years, right? To get more youth involved in strength training and understanding the health dynamics. So we're seeing the fruits of your labor actually come to fruition. Now, how do we capitalize and be able to really impact their lives for generations to come?
Yeah, I love that. Okay. So you talked about they're just starting their careers and sort of next transition in their lives. So we did dig into their sort of the income and how they're spending money today. So their average income is about $50,000, which is not a whole lot because they're just starting their careers, but they actually make up 40% of the global spending today. So they don't have a whole lot, but they're willing to spend on things they value the most. So Latasha, you know this in your clientele. You want to share with us some of the findings there?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do large group training, boutique fitness, and our monthly membership is $199 a month. And so at that, looking at those statistics, we had to add a ton of value into what we did, so it felt worthy. Somebody said it earlier today, people want to feel seen, celebrated, and significant. And so a portion of what they're making out of that $50,000, I was taking, $199 a month. And so we packed a ton of value. And, Tilly's point, we wanted to meet them where they were at. And so we have a real well-rounded, I would say, approach to fitness. And someone spoke on this yesterday as well. You come into the gym and a lot of people come in for wellness, weight loss. And that high of that motivation kind of dies and they're looking for the next thing. It's almost fitness ADD, right? And so what we did is we created, by increasing value, what we call community groups. And in our community groups, we take them outside of the four walls to meet them where they're at. I've lost weight. I feel great. I know how to do a squat now. What about that half marathon? So we've got community groups that feed into the concept of making sure that the value is packed there. Because again, we're asking for pieces of a very small amount. And so keeping them engaged in that is just an increase in value.
Yeah.
And it's not just more offers. It's a people. It's people. It's tribe. It's team. They're used to doing things with other people. So I feel that's important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll also add that, Lee mentioned that they're the biggest group. So we're talking about 70 million people that fall into this group. So even though we're looking at the slide and it says, 38% of them make under 50,000 and 38% of them make between 50 and 99, they're really at the start of their lives. So these are 11 to 26-year-olds. I know that when I was 26, I was nowhere near where I am today in terms of financial literacy, in terms of pretty much anything. So this is the future of your membership base, and being able to acquire them now, build some kind of brand affinity now, is just going to make it better for your businesses later.
With that being said, I think we have to look at the relevance of now. I mean, 50% of millennials that aren't at a gym are thinking about it or want to within the next 24 months. 44% of them are already paying for an app. 77% of them are going to pay up to $95 minimum for their health and wellness, and those double the spend of what their parents and generations would do. So they see a big value on that. I think we all talk about community. It's really how you create that and make it scalable, but then also being seen. Authenticity is something that's very, very important to them. So if you move away from that, they don't feel seen, and that's why they are just in subgroups inside your facility on Instagram rather than talking to the staff, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And another stat that we dug into in terms of our research, again, primary like consumer research, we found that, while a general population is willing to spend about $50 to $60 per month on fitness and well-being and wellness, Gen Zs are willing to spend way more than that, up to actually, in fact, $120 a month on fitness and well-being. And so just thinking about that, willingness to spend more, willingness to invest. Anything else to think about in terms of like just other ways of creating community connection and value from that perspective?
Yeah, I mean, people want to belong to something bigger than themselves. And so becoming a part of a gym that is not just open the door, come on in, is what this generation is looking for. They're looking for tribe, like Lee said. They're playing sports in school. They're used to a team aspect. And so group training is absolutely where we land in this. But I mean, it's almost like there's many built-in retention specialists in their own group. Sally doesn't come to the gym, and Pedro calls her up on the phone and says, "Hey, where you been?" And they're looking to not just be seen by the companies that we brand ourselves with, but they're looking to be seen by other people that they're actually working out with. And it definitely lends to a different concept of fitness.
Yeah, to be seen, we kind of know all about that, right? They're the ones doing selfies in front of the mirrors
Absolutely.
inside your
I
facility.
say
right?
lean into that.
Yeah, let's get into that. Actually,
Free marketing.
yeah, free marketing for you in the gym. So let's talk about that motivation a little bit more. When we also looked at, how else are they spending their fitness time, if you will, mind share of well-being. And so it's split, right? So they're likely to be outside. They're likely to be participating in sports and team and leagues, and then also spending and doing free online fitness. Makes me cringe a little bit when you hear that, free online fitness, influencers providing guidance. So just on that, a team. Let's start with Latasha here again, just on that motivation, how they're spending their time. Like, what are they looking for?
Well, that's kind of the tricky question, right? And that's why we've got 13 community groups, and it changes. I made a joke about it, but I really refer to it as fitness ADD. There's so many options out there now, whether it's a mud run or we've got pickleball now, which is a huge. It's a sport, but again, they're looking for different ways to connect, and so we have a bocce ball team. It's really just a drinking club. But they show up for it. We've got pickleball, we've got a triathlon team, and I've watched people. We've talked about this before. I've got people that are members of my organization and my company that pay $199 a month, and I never see them inside our four walls. But they are on every team. They're playing softball. They're playing bocce ball. They're showing up and doing triathlons. People want to feel like that athlete, taking them back to the days of high school, and so they're looking for ways to stimulate that, and it changes.
Yeah, I think one thing where we know they're spending their time, recent study from Les Mills came out that 81% of them are looking for group X activities. So they're looking to be in that team environment. When you talk about it digitally, I know a lot of people have tried to monetize some type of, digital programming for Generation Z. Couple things to take a step back. When right now the biggest search engine for Gen Z is YouTube, number one. Number two is TikTok. Then it goes Twitter. So they're not even using ChatGPT, right? They're not using Google. They're going to their influencers, which is free. That's something that's going to be huge. But then when you take another step back and you look at, okay, what's the digital landscape and what's out there right now? You have Nike Training Club that's sitting on Netflix. That's free for those members. But then when you go another step back, you look at the biggest brands, such as like Peloton, for example. We all know who they are. $1 billion market cap. The average spend to be able to acquire a member is about $180. $12.99 monthly membership. The average member stayed on there for 13 months. So that are negative when they're trying to acquire members. So we have Peloton, who consider the best of the best. They're negative acquiring their members. So if you're a big box operator, even an operator, how do you play in that space and then make it scalable where you're not driving down your own or increasing your own costs? Maybe you look at a YouTube channel. We know that Generation D likes that authenticity and they like the grittiness, the grain workouts from the iPhone. And you include that for free within your space where you can control what they see and then also give them that digital consumption maybe through your MyZone, your Apple Watch, where it's all sitting digitally native for them now. That's really authentic. Maybe you go one step up. You let them have their own hashtag so they can be seen by their friends of what they're doing, and they can really feel like they're part of a digital group there.
Yeah. Lester?
Yeah, the only thing I'll add is that I'm always shocked when I look at this slide and I look all the way to the far right, and it basically says only 25% of Gen Z is looking at the health club or big box gym as the primary place. Now they may pick multiple, but the primary place. And I think what that tells us about the future of this industry is we need to make the brand affinity a bigger thing, but then give them the ability to connect with your brand outside of the four walls via an app, via a YouTube channel, via streaming of certain workout sessions. Like, we need to build that community outside of the four walls, because that is not where they're thinking of fitness and wellness. That is one of the places. So if you can be the anchor to that and provide them different avenues to connect different modalities, I think that's going to help the business.
Right.
You know, within our own ABC portfolio here in North America, we actually did see that, you know, the age group of under 25 was the biggest jump increase in terms of new joins this year. So definitely trending the right way, if you will, looking at the big box gyms as a destination for them, or home base for all things fitness and well-being. Just maybe quick audience participation before I lose you all before lunch. How many people here have their own YouTube channel from their brand? Okay, all right, a few, maybe something to think about. Bring it back to your marketing team, right? Hey, you know, I heard, actually, I hate when that happens. When they're like, oh, I go to a conference and I heard something, let's come back and do it. No, I'm just kidding. How about your own TikTok channel? TikTok? All right, Andy's got it. All right, good. I see some of that. What about your own, like, influencers within your network? Like your own club, have your own influencers? Yeah, oh, okay. All right, last question. How many of your own staff or Gen Zers that you're working with them to maybe help create some kind of social media strategy? Yeah, Tiffany, maybe, some in the back. Okay, good. Okay, some ideas there, right? So don't just take our word for it, but engage your staff, engage your own community that you have today, understand what they're looking for and what's motivating them. All right, so let's now think about that connection again, and just double click on that a little bit more in terms of how do we attract them, but also retain them. So let's start with this idea of engaging experiences, right? We heard the wellness lovers and the fitness explorers is all about experience, and they're willing to spend money on it. So let's start, Lee, you came from the world of Les Mills and programming, and we've always been in that world. Like, talk about that experience that you mentioned earlier about teams and connection. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is you have to look at the structure. So I saw a lot of people that raised their hands and said, you know, they have a YouTube channel or social media and they're offering some free type of content. The biggest problem where I've seen this fail, even when we were in the early days of Les Mills, is that there was actually no direction and scalability in terms of that content. So you have to understand, Generation Z, like we said, went through high school, a full strength training program. There's specialization in sports now, right? So they want to actually be able to understand what programs they should be doing, when and where, and what the time duration, what they should be expecting. Then on top of that, once you nail that, you can go ahead and start creating challenges that they're allowed to be able to self-guide themselves through. Then you can start for the next part of that, and then have some type of tech communication with that member that's going to be gated and linking in through some of your mobile devices. If you're able to do some of those things, that's going to be really cool. You have to think about it. Lester said that only 25% of people are thinking about a big box gym. I ran a club in Lakeview, Chicago. During that time, I think this was 2015, there was 14 competitors that popped up within like a 3-mile radius. Okay, and that was just paying studios and other high volume, low cost gyms. Now you think about that, there's a competitor on every block that's free. If Generation Z, they're getting inside their dorm, they're going to have some type of strength training area inside their office, their apartment building. So free is really what we're competing against. It's no longer about the pull-up or the squat rack, all those things, because they have so many different options. And then when we think about it, they're also transient. So you're going to lose connection with them at some point in time. How do you bring that experience back where they remember you, they want to continue that journey with you when they're back in your location?
Others?
That's a great comment about transient. Again, I bring it back to the age grouping, right? So 11 to 26, these are the folks that may go to school in one city and then may graduate and move to a completely different city in order to go to work, and then may move again when they come out of that, that when they start to settle. So for those of you that have brands that are located in multiple states, making it easy for them to be transient. For those of you who don't, making sure that when they leave, if they leave on a good note, so that should they come back or should you expand, you still have a good relationship. They still have some brand affinity. So that, again, the age grouping is really important to that group.
Yeah, I'll just echo that sentiment. And one of the great things that came out of COVID is we began to stream. And I thought, oh, okay, we're done with this. Everybody's going to come back into the club, and it's changed our avatar tremendously. And so we've got people that are doing a combination of those modalities. They're coming into the gym physically. They're going outside to one of our community groups where they're also streaming online. And we are a small boutique gym. We've got 5 locations in the Bay Area. So someone moves out of our area and there's a disconnect from our brand. And so what we've done is we've kept streaming platform, and I made sure that there was a 2-way integration so they could see us and we could see them. And it is so crazy with the big exodus out of California. No comments, please. I'm watching people move out of our area, but I'm still getting to see them show up on workouts, and they even are still coordinating times with their friends, even in different time zones. And it's been kind of even nice and emotional for us to watch, as well as the people that are moving away and leaving their tribe and their community that they've become so close with. And it's so great to be able to still have them connected outside of our 4 walls and beyond, to keep that connection there and seeing their face on there. It's been a nice perk
I think
to moving online.
we have to learn from cable, right? And think about how we unbundle our membership a little bit. Mm-hmm. So maybe you don't start with a digital only membership, but when they're going to be transient, they're going back to college, you're allowing them to drop down to content only, or you're allowing them to drop down to wearables. That's all staying within inside the facility, inside your digital network. I think, to be honest, you have to really look at a way for them to rejoin that's really seamlessly. I don't know if Shivani was on a podcast with Aaron, and he talked about when someone canceled and then we have to go back through the tour process. It doesn't make a lot of sense. How do we allow them to join back online and just get them back inside our network to start and stop? Could we understand that generation to doing that? We talk about this generation doesn't have brand loyalty. I don't know if it doesn't have brand loyalty or the age of abundance for them. They just have so much opportunity. Mm-hmm. So how do we stay connected to them and continue to earn that right with them month in and month out?
You mentioned earlier about different experiences and different modalities. How do we address, maybe as an industry, about like fads or trends, right? We had at dinner last night or somewhere else, and we were talking about like cold plunges, like infrared saunas. Like, how do you bring those type of trends or what's hot right now into the programming and those experiences?
I think it's important to have brand alignment. I think it's important. I mean, there's so many different things out there, and in making the choices to choose what you bring into your organization, I do believe that it needs to be in brand awareness and being aligned with what you already are and who you are already showing up as, and then looking at the modalities and seeing that if that's a right fit for you. Like, maybe the juice bar is not a right fit for you, but maybe a cold plunge is. And so I think that's important to have the alignment when putting that together.
Yeah, I'll also say I think it was Rudy yesterday, and I apologize if I got the name wrong, who said, you have to know what your genetic code is. So you have to know what your genetic code is, but you also have to know what you're willing to adapt to and what you're not willing to, right? Based on that genetic code. They want authenticity. So if you force it, if you're just following or chasing a trend only to then give it up and chase the next trend, I think you may get short-term blips, but it's not going to retain them or create that brand affinity that we're looking for. So you have to know, where are you willing to invest and make that real commitment to be authentic to that group.
Yeah.
I think partnerships. that's probably where you can do it the best, right? In terms of where outside your network or what you do in your four walls or even digitally, where can you bring in partnerships to be able to have them do it authentically? And you're just relying on your other partner to be able to drive an experience that you can't do yet.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, great. Well, last one here, just again, thinking about that connection again and value. When we think about, again, modalities, price, programming, frictionless experience, where do you see the opportunity is, in terms of what else we can do? So I'm going to start with Lester, because you're making eye contact with me.
I was just laughing. The first thing that comes to mind in terms of building deeper connection is the stat that really blew me away when we were doing the research and we got the reports back, was that mental health piece. I was struck yesterday, and I think a couple of people have brought it up by Victor and Lynn Brick. It really, for this generation, they care a lot about well-being, both mental health, spiritual health. They want something that is more holistic in nature. And frankly, me personally, I've never thought of a gym as a place for that. And I think we need to better educate and do exactly what was said, is explain either overtly or covertly how coming and working out and being part of the tribe, as was stated earlier, is not just for your physical well-being, but also for your mental well-being. I think that's critical. I think that's going to help build a deeper connection with this generation, at least at this point in time. Full disclosure, things change, right? But I think now that's what we're seeing. That's the trend. And I think, if you build the affinity now, it's going to pay dividends later.
Yeah, I think that we probably all need to take a step back and see how much Generation Z has already influenced, just like the millennials did with ClassPass, right? Generation Z is a mindset. It's the swipe left, instant gratification that they're giving to millennials, baby boomers. So we have to adopt that mindset. And I think it also starts with our people, inclusivity, and being able to have programs that is scalable across that. And if we nail that, and then give them a way to boomerang back inside our facilities, I think we'll just have not only brand awareness, but we'll build back that brand loyalty through our people.
Yeah, the mental health is a definitely a big topic for us. I actually, as I said, I've been in the industry for 32 years, and to Lester's point, it's a part of my DNA to exercise. But watching what's happening in our communities, and with this generation around mental health, I even myself pivoted, and I'm on the owner side, but I'm diving back into coaching to kind of lead the efforts on mental health, because they're broken, and so to be able, even myself, I've gotten breathwork certified to deliver that, and there were some studies that we were even looking at. They're very independent as a generation, and so while they're spending money on counseling, they're also instant gratification, and so finding ways that on their own they can heal through trauma or anxiety or some of the other things. I think that it's important for us as an industry to look at, because that's who's showing up at our clubs. So I think
there were two specific goals that the Gen Zers has stated, which are slightly different from the general population, was actually exercise recovery, which I know Lee kind of talked about that, and also programs for better sleep. I mean, any reaction to that?
It just all goes back to well-being and wellness, the well-rounded approach to being a better version of yourself.
Yeah.
And that needs to be included and discussed for sure.
Yeah. There was another dialogue we had. It was like the term recovery would assume that you need to recover from something. I mean, I wonder if there's a different way to brand that or phrase that, because for Gen Zers, maybe it's not about recovering from something, but rather it's just
Longevity.
Yeah, longevity or just being.
Yeah,
right?
longevity of being.
Yeah, last comment. You made a comment when we were talking about this, about biohacking and all the things that are coming on vogue now. I shouldn't say now, they've been around for a little while, but they're really coming into vogue. And what happens is an influencer picks at one particular thing, some injection, some deep, some cold plunge, and then the followers are all interested in trying that out. it goes back to the types of consumers. They're experimenting with what are the things that are going to bring them value that they're going to enjoy. So just, I don't know if you want to comment more on that from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree. I mean, intermittent fasting, cold plunging, breath work, I mean, all of these things, if you're, hopefully you're talking to Gen Zs that are in your clubs, whether they're on your team, it's a great way to provide insight. I mean, most of us are out of that generation, but that's who is frequenting our businesses. And so to have these conversations with them, to understand that, I mean, I have a 23-year-old, I was 23 today, and at 23 years old, I wasn't talking about biohacking, but that is on the tips of their tongue now. They're much more educated on wellness and overall fitness than I feel. I mean, I know for myself that I ever was. I mean, I showed up to the gym and I was like driving through getting a 800 calorie salad and drinking peach nectar, thinking I was doing something really positive for myself. That's not what this new generation is doing. And so to meet them where they're at, I think that these conversations that may be out of our reach because we're talking about squat racks and talking about equipment and talking about technology, but it's on their heads and on their minds, and I think it's important to address those things.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So that's actually the formal part of our presentation and dialogue. Let's open it up for questions, ideas, perhaps. Oh, we got Taylor jumping right in. I love it.
Hi, I'm Taylor Brown. I'm the editor of Club Solutions Magazine, and I am a Gen Z member. As I look around the room, I may be the only one. So
You're welcome.
happy to represent. We talked a lot about community and how Gen Z is the influencers. They're following influencers. They're the tech age. So I'm wondering the crossover of how many Gen Z trainers, coaches you actually have in your facility, and what's the data of how they're being represented on the staff side?
Great question. We definitely, I coming from, being a Black female, I walk into spaces and I enjoy seeing people that look like me. And so, it's for them, they're coming in kind of with the same mindset, whether it's body type or it's race. I literally had a female walk in the other day and she's like, oh my gosh, that lady up there on the before and after picture, she's got blonde hair and she's wearing glasses, and so do I. That could be me. And so I think it's important to have that representation throughout your organization, very much so. And so when we're picking our coaches who are absolutely amazing, I mean, they don't all look like that past traditional coach. I've got some people that work out really hard and look like they ate a couple of cheeseburgers, and I love that because that's what our members were coming in with. And so having that diversity that represents the people that we serve is definitely a part of our strategic growth for sure.
I think so. It's not a secret. Right now, the industry is seeing lulls in group attendance across the board at most facilities, along with PT. I think a big reason for that is that exact point is how many instructors are out there that look like Gen Z is really not a lot. There's an instructor loss. I think one of the biggest things that we have to solve for maybe the spaces that we start doing our group X attendance, where that now going to be on your floor or your turf area instead of your group X room. Two, you have to look at the gig economy. It's more so where people want less rules and regulations about how they earn and get money, and Gen Z is actually really demanding that. So you have to think about different ways that you're able to support the Gen Z instructor and giving them different ways they're able to drive revenue. I know some great operators that allow them to be influencers in their club. They do membership trades. Maybe they allow them to train for free what's inside their app. There's just different ways that you have to think about it. It just can't be come in, have a class for $30 an hour anymore. We have to approach it differently.
Hi there. My name is Mario Arce with Mountainside Fitness. I wanted to ask a question about the research as we all look at our data, and great presentation earlier about looking at our data differently, is what's Gen Z going to do to a lot of our models in terms of usage? Because I am noticing the daily usage or the weekly visits is going up amongst this generation, and how we approach a fitness center and the spaces we provide, your data might challenge us to do it a little bit different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we were talking about the data on there, and on average, they're coming in 5.2 days a week, which is very different than the past generations. And so I still go back to the term experience. I mean, with that frequency, I think it's 5.2 opportunities to have brand loyalty. And so knowing what to do with that data and how you show up differently, which we've also talked about, the fitness ADD. So having different areas where they can connect 5.2 times a week that is different than what they did on day one than day two, whether it's a different person at the desk or a different way to say hello, or we have things in our gym that we do intentionally where we have people introduce us. Oh my gosh, you love Disneyland. Sally loves Disneyland too. Connect. So finding ways to continue to engage them because of their frequency and using that data to grow that, I think is valuable.
As Generation Z enters more and more the fitness-based facility and more of them start joining our club, they probably will break our usage model, if we're going to be honest, just in terms of where if we can't get them in the group acts where we can service the most amount of people within an hour, we can't keep adding squat racks, right? We're going to have to do something to be able to service some of these people. So you're going to have to look at how you get small group training and how you get group exercise on the floor to be able to service the members that are coming in, and then also having a digital strategy that's going to be scalable around that. Because otherwise, you're just going to have left with bigger and bigger facilities, and it's going to be some constructs on your times.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I do on the consulting side as well, is helping the big box gyms incorporate these for the exact same reason, for usage, for space. I mean, there's, like he said, there's only so many platforms that you could have in a group training class, with multiple people, up to 25 on the floor, having different space for them to use will help organize the space in your own gyms, because they're doing it already, right? You're walking through your own gym and there's 6 people on a platform kind of rotating through their workouts. And so the usage is already being restricted. And so finding ways to kind of lean into that and embrace it, I think is valuable as well.
I got one final question, if you don't mind, Lester, because we're running late on time.
Please.
Kevin.
Yeah.
Just a prediction. Where do you see this generation in 10 years? Do you see them turning into millennials? Do you see them turning? Where do you see that this group may, as they use it and they age, and they buy a house or they buy a car, or do we see anything, like from a research standpoint? Where do we see these guys, these young men and women grow over the next 5 or 10 years as they tend to move out?
Great question.
So it's interesting because that's actually, I was going to talk about that with Mario's question. So the thing to remember is while they're visiting 5.2 times per week now, they're 26 at the highest point, right? Some of them are way younger. What happens when they have children? What happens when they buy a house? I don't think the data is clear, but I think directionally, everything we know as a business and all of the research indicates that when people start exercising at a younger age, they stick with it either through their entire lives or they step out and come back in and step out and come back in. I think the fact that there is this much participation in this group now is good for our industry. I do think it's going to put pressure on the models. I'm not sure it's going to be the type of pressure that we're seeing right now. But we do have to rethink that. What if the participation rate is higher than it is today? Because this group enjoys lifelong interaction with fitness and well-being.
I think from our research, we asked that question, and the financial headwinds, would you be likely to keep your gym membership? And they overwhelmingly said yes. So when you look at the millennials, I went through, the Great Recession because coming out of college, and I kept my gym membership. And I was one of the few because that was some part of my life. But now Generation Z has that. And you're already seeing the financial pressure that they're going through. Let's not kid ourselves. When you look at car loans right now, the high decline rate, delinquency rate is among Generation Z. You have student loans that's already restarted, and they're still joining at a higher clip. So they value it. We have to continue to build on top of that value. And that's where it gets really exciting. they're 26 making the least amount of money, 18 making the least amount of money, they can't afford a car, they're still coming to the gym. Think about when they're 30 and they're on the other side of this. That's when we're really going to be back better than ever. So I'm really excited about the next 10 years.
Yeah.
I actually hope they would turn into the routine lifers, right? That becomes a habit. They see so much value in it. And so regardless of the age, they embrace this lifestyle, truly.
Right.